Okay, so in this lesson we're going to discuss variable scope. So we'll start out with the class and we'll call it scope. I'm in my lesson 4 folder and I'll just create a new text document and I will call it scope.java. And I want to say yes to that. And then we'll drag scope.java into our Notepad++. So let's define the class and create our main method. And I'll start by creating a variable. Let's call it int var2, and I'll set that equal to 47. And as I'm declaring var2, I have to be aware of its scope. Now the scope of a variable is simply where you can use it. In the case of var2, I can only use it inside of the main method because that's where it was declared. Now you can read more about scope in Java and how it works in both the lesson and if you want to read some online sources. But the simple way to remember is that you can only use a variable inside of the curly brackets where it was created. So I have this main method. All the statements of the method are contained in these curly brackets. If I declare a variable in there, that's the only place I can use it. So if I decided to, and I say var2, and I run this, it prints my 47 out. But let's say I had another method here, and let's just call it method 1, and we don't need parameters for it, and we decided to say the same thing, var2, and I run this. I get a compile error that says cannot find symbol var2, and that's because I declared var2 in here and I am now outside of these curly brackets and I can no longer see var2. So now in here I could, instead of doing that, I could say int var3, could declare a new variable called var3, and I could say let's declare that let's call it a double. Let's make it a double. var3, and I'll set that equal to 89.1, and I'll set the var2 here equal to var3. So now I'm printing var3 in this print statement, and I'm gonna go ahead and comment that print statement out, and I'll run method 1 from the main. And if I run, you can see it prints out 89.1. So just to reiterate, I'm running method 1 from the main. I'm declaring var3 from in here, and I'm printing out var3. However, if I go over here and I try to, let's say system, let's actually just change the one that we already have. If instead in this print statement here I try to use var3, same thing happens. I get a compile error. Why? Because var3 is declared within these two curly brackets and it is not visible here. Or I'm sorry, here. And so if I wanted to get around this, I could probably use parameters and, put an int variable in here to hold the variable 2 value, and I could call method 1 with variable 2, or I could do the same thing with the 89.1 here, and I could use parameters for that and turn this into a return method and all kinds of other nonsense. But there's a much easier way out of it, and that is with instance variables. So hopefully you did the reading and you know what instance variables are, and we're going to learn how to use them in a more practical way. Let's say I want to simplify my life and I don't want to use parameters, and I want to be able to print variable 2 from here, and variable 3 from here without getting an error. What I would use is instance variables up top. Now the reason these are instance variables is because when you declare or when you create a new instance of a class, or you instantiate an object from a class like scope, they're saying you're creating an instance. And the first thing when you create that instance that gets created are these variables that are up here at the top in your instance variables. Hence the term instance variables. So if you have a, say, static, let's call it int var2, let's just declare that here, and we'll set him equal to 47. Again, we can get rid of this guy, and we can leave the var3 here, and then we can get rid of this also. Actually, I probably should have cut that. Let's cut var3. And I just have to add the keyword static. Now, the reason I have to write the word static here is because nothing gets freestanding by default in Java. By default, everything's just a regular variable, which means that it needs an object in order to exist or to be operable. So you have to type in the keyword static to let Java know that your variables or your methods are independent of the object. They're operating all on their own. So I created these two objects, and now I can use them. So I can just print out var3, and then I call method 1, which prints var2, and they are in scope because these two variables have a scope of these two brackets here, and all these methods are within those brackets, so we're good to go. So if I hit that, you can see I get no error, and it prints my 89.1 and my 47. So just to show you how much this simplifies our life, let's go ahead and add user inputs into the mix. What I want to do here is I'm going to just declare these variables, and I'm not going to initialize them, because down here in the main I am going to take user inputs for those. So before I do anything else, I'm going to need to import the scanner. And then I'm going to need to create a new scanner object. So I'm going to say scanner keyboard equals new scanner and system input. And in addition to that, let's create a another variable that's a string, and I will call it var. Let's go above. Since I have 2 and 3, let's make a 1. I'll go static string var1. But I'll set that one equal to your number is there. And you'll see why I'm doing that in just a second. And I could take user inputs. So instead of this, let's go ahead and do please enter, let's see, enter an integer. And I'll set var2 equal to ab.next int and you can see here that I can declare and initialize my variables in 2 different spots, and that's pretty cool. So now I want to, let's go copy this one so I don't have to retype, and I'll say a double. I enter a double, and var3 equals kb.next double, and then I can say, I can use this method 1 to print, let's go your numbers are, and I can say here, I can say var1 plus var2 and oops, I got a plus var3, and I forgot a plus over here also. And just to be super cool, I'll add a period there, and I can run and go 577, and I can say my numbers are 5 and 77. And since 77 was technically a double, because var3 is a double, I got 77.0. So there's your basic crash course in variable scope. But the only real way to figure it out is to start using it in different places and see what you do and you can't do by just trying stuff out. So with that, I'm going to probably put you onto your labs. There's a couple little extra things on using multiple methods and a little bit more about scope in your lesson, but beyond that, good luck with your labs and I'll be around to help.